Hi, everybody. My name
Gotcha.
is Phil DJ Right Click Valentine. DJ because of my excellent taste in music. Right Click because that was my Appalachian Trail name. And Valentine because it's a magnificent English surname that I was bullied unmercifully with as a kid. So I have my kind of issues with Valentine. Anyway, I have been in recovery since December 28th, 1987, working on 36 years of recovery, and also been at the Connecticut Community for Addiction Recovery as since January of 1999. So we're looking at 25 years coming up in a few months here. 20 plus as the executive director. Seen a lot of things and changes and growth in 20 plus years here. So it's been a life's blessing for me to be here and be in this role. So today we are doing recovery coach performance support, also known as coaching for coaches. And I'd like everybody, not everybody, those who choose to, because I've learned on here, we'll just take a few. I'd like you to introduce yourself, where you're from, maybe a little bit about yourself if you like. And I want to hear something, a positive impact story where somebody had a positive impact on you or you've had a positive impact on somebody else. I think I was using a C-card story, but another one just popped into my head. I was 9 years old, and I grew up across from an elementary school, but they had a baseball field in the back in Manchester, Connecticut. And me and my buddy across the street, Woji, we were just playing baseball, and we'd wait for kids to show up, and you'd have a pickup game. You know how it goes when you're kids back in the 60s. And this guy came back and saw me playing, and he asked me who I played for, and I just signed up for like rookie league or something. And ends up he asked me to join the uh, little league. So I skipped rookie league from farm league right to little league, and he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and he had a positive impact. And so I started playing in Little League, and I had 4 great years of baseball at the highest level at that time, the Little League level, when I was from 9, 10, 11, and 12. His name was Art Charlebois. Yes, it was Charlebois, Charlebois. And and he was a great coach, and he was one of my very first positive coaches that really uh, talked about encouragement and instruction and believing in people and kids. Very positive human being and a positive coach that had an impact on my life. So who else would like to introduce themselves and talk about a positive impact? Mr. Michael Doyle. Are you repping Microsoft, or what's that background
No,
back
that's
there? I'm not quite.
Reliance Health. That's Reliance Health. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
I really, when you said that, I'm like, oh, that does look like the Microsoft. I might have to change that up. So,
Yeah,
Mike Doyle, obviously from Reliance Health. I'm the director of the Recovery Coach program down here, among a few other things. They get them out. It's a nonprofit, so they get their money's worth out of me.
yeah.
Um, I am also a person in long-term recovery for myself. Just entered my 25th year of long-term recovery.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's hard to believe, get that
Hmm.
chip. And I'm like, I remember when 24 hours was a long time.
Yeah.
Um, as far as the positive impact on me, I was thinking about it, and my first real like coach was my father,
Mm.
you know, and my dad, I mean, he coached everything. He coached baseball, he coached football. I learned so much from him on there. And it's not just like, the skills on the field and stuff. It's kind of how to conduct yourself on the field. You represent the the team on the front of the shirt, not on the back of the shirt or on the side of the helmet. Um, you know, it, don't not a lot of big celebrations and things like that, which I've tried to import, impart onto into others too. Plus, I mean, he was a military guy and a firefighter, and kind of had a really strict kind of regiment, growing up. And where I hated it at the time, I look back on it now and it's like, boy, I'm glad I kind of had that, because some of my friends, their parents didn't even really care. It seemed like, it's like, yeah, they could do whatever they wanted. I wanted those parents, just like all my friends thought my dad was the cool guy. I'm like, really? You don't have to live with him. But he was a very positive impact on me for sure.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Khalees, good to see you.
Always. My name is Khalees. I'm a woman in long-term recovery. I'll be 6 years, February 28th, when the shoot next year, which is coming up, not too far away. That's weird to say. And I'm a recovery coach, professional, and facilitator as well. I wanted to think about somebody who's like not necessarily in my like recovery life, to try to like think broader, because it's easy for me to talk about the people who've impacted me in my recovery. So somebody I thought about was Todd Allen. I was like 19 years old and I was working at the country clubs and I wanted to move up. So I would always ask if I could learn and move up and what I could do. And he was just like the first person who didn't look at me like a child. He saw me and he saw that I wanted to learn, and he would take me through trainings and he would stay with me after work. And then he helped me teach. He taught me how to do wine stuff and just all these different things within the country club. And I moved up to like event coordinator, and then I moved and I just kept moving up, and he really supported me to get there, to move up. And he just saw my potential.
Thank you, Khalees. Nate. Unmute yourself, dude. I know it's not your first Zoom meeting.
It's the first one, Phil. Good morning, everyone. Hey, so I want to say that when you guys train my deceased colleague, Stan DeKemper, and I on recovery coaching here in Indiana in 2009, we came back here and started funding wasn't available for coaching at that time. So we came back here and we started, volunteering to coach people. So I just want to say Stan and I had a tremendous impact here in Indiana, because people give the testimony. I don't have to say anything. They'll tell you, hey, it's Nate and Stan, it's Nate, so I'm grateful to be able to have done that and to continue to do that kind of work. So I'm grateful to you guys. Y'all had a tremendous impact on my life. So thank you.
Thank you, Nate. Michael.
Good morning. So I got a call Thursday from one of my nephews who I really don't speak to a lot, since he was like younger, and he's became a father. So he's really like, he's been a good dad, right? So he calls me up Thursday night. He calls my wife up first, and then he tells my wife he wants to speak to me. And he says, I've been in recovery for 5 years. And I was like, for real? He was like, he said, yeah. He goes, and I want to relapse tonight. And then I go, I don't think you do, because you would have never called me. And he was like, yeah, I want to talk first before I do this. And we had a conversation, and he tells me that I'm the reason that he says bless you to strangers when they sneeze. And I was like, for real? He goes, yeah. He goes, because I remember when I was a kid, you was taking care of me, and you took me on a city bus. He goes, and I'll never forget this. And this lady sneezed, and you looked at her and said, bless you. And she looked at you like you were crazy, and you just smiled and kept walking. And then I asked you, do you know her? And I said, nah. And he goes, why'd you say bless you to her? And I told him, I was like, it's just the right thing to do, And he was like, now I do that. I always think of you when I do it. And it was like the little things that's like that, right? The next day he calls me up. He goes, I didn't drink. I had a good conversation with a best friend of mine, and I took whatever you said into consideration.
Mhm.
And I was like, dang, that's real deep, man.
Mhm.
For somebody I haven't even spoken to my nephew for like 2 years.
Wow.
And for him to reach out like that, it was awesome.
Thank you, Michael.
Well,
We're introducing ourselves and a positive impact story. Percy,
Hello, good morning, everyone.
good morning.
All the way from Baltimore, Maryland. My positive impact came about 9.5 years ago. I don't know if anyone on this panel knows Cyril Scovins, better known as Max. He calls himself a dictionologist. And at that 9.5 years, I began my recovery process. And something about him doing his lectures, doing the IOP groups attracted me to him because of his knowledge, because of his skills, because of the way he handled people upfront, just upfront and personal. And it was yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
I began to follow him. Like the lady had touched the garment of Jesus. Back then, I touched his garment and never let it go because I saw him as a very positive person in my life to help me carry on this image of being a man in recovery. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Percy. Anybody else? Introduce yourself and Natha.
Hello, how are y'all doing?
Good.
My name is Natha. I am in Lincolnshire, England. I am a woman in long-term recovery and the proud mama of a daughter in recovery. And something of impact happened to me this morning, and that was my daughter impacted me. I broke down in tears at the kitchen bar, doubting my ability and lacking confidence. And she raised me up and she believed in me. And I am so grateful for her, even though you piss me off sometimes. But thank you. And that was really impactful and what I needed this morning.
Thank you. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Bill and everybody else. It's great to be here. Well, Nathan got the tears flowing already. So, but I wanted to say that I'm a woman in long-term recovery, and I don't know what year, how many years, 16 years. And my brother Mike, I'm the youngest of 5 children, and my brother Mike is the closest one in age to me, so he is number 4. And we have 2 older sisters, and we had an older brother. And our oldest brother was like everybody's hero, because he was the athlete and the good-natured person and the jokester and just an all-around great guy. And my brother Mike was always in his shadow, growing up, especially with our father. But my brother Mike has always done the right thing. He's always kept doing the right thing. He treats everybody with respect, always has. He keeps to himself, pretty much. He's an artist. And I just have a great deal of respect for him. One thing he said to me pre-recovery really impacted me. He flew down all the way from Buffalo, New York to Atlanta to, kick me in the ass, basically. And he said, look, he said, you're on a train, and that train has a destination. You either need to get off, or you just keep going as you are, and you'll reach your destination, and you won't be living anymore. And he was right. He was absolutely right. And I needed that image. I needed that to get my rear end gear and get the treatment that I needed. And he's just been through a hell of a lot, and he's just a fantastic human being.
Thank you, Laura. Paula?
Hi, so I'm Paula, I'm English. I found my recovery fairly recently. One of the first steps to sort of getting on my feet was doing the CCAR training. I think it was about 18 months ago. It took me a long time to get recovery, a lot of failed attempts. Yeah, so it took a long time. So yeah, that's the main reason I'm in Spain. I found my recovery here, and it works for me because of the drinking culture in England. But it's hard. I moved here on my own. So yeah, it's been hard, but thankfully, touch wood, I'm doing all right at the minute, and CCAR is helping me find a different direction career-wise. So yeah, that's set me on a different path. I think my main challenge really is just lacking confidence with putting myself out there and you know, holding my head up high and saying, yeah, I can help someone with their recovery. I have been doing it, but I still lack the confidence to be able to say, you know, I can help you, because it took me so many failed attempts. And positive impact story, besides CCAR obviously and finding a different path, is when I was giving up alcohol, that was my drug of choice. One of the things that held me back for the longest was that I thought, I'm going to be boring. I'm going to be boring. You know, and that really was something that took such a long time. And as much as people say you're not boring, because to be quite honestly, my personality has developed since the alcohol has gone, it's developed. So I thought, I've never been able to dance, never ever thought I could dance. And people told me I couldn't dance. They said, my God, you're terrible. So when I came to Spain, I joined the gym, and there was some dance choreography style classes, which were an hour, and they did hip hop and they did, you know, salsa, bachata. And I went with my friend, and she was like, "Whoa, you're the worst, really bad. You can't dance." I was like, "Yeah, I know." So I downloaded an app called Steezy. And I swear to God, it's for 15-year-olds who go on TikTok, this app. And you do dance lessons every day, and it shows you how to twerk. It shows you how to isolate your hips, shake your ass, and pardon the French. You know, it really shows you all of these different moves and how to isolate your hips. And I did it all in my living room. And, you know, 2 years on, I can actually dance. You know, I'm not the best, but I've learned to do something, and that for me is so powerful because it allows me to socialize without alcohol, because I can get up, I can go to a wedding, and I can get on the dance floor. So the positive impact for me is about 9 months ago. You know, I still was very unconfident with the dancing, and I'm still not the best dancer in the room by any stretch. But this lady was a good dancer, and every week she would say, "You're getting better, you know, you're really getting better." And whenever she was in the class, I had more confidence because she was there. And I've since found out she's a dance psychologist, and she teaches people to release their emotion with dancing. I didn't know this. And she is my positive impact because she gave me so much confidence. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Paula. Chris.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris
Hi.
McGinnis, and I'm also in long-term sobriety. I just celebrated a couple weeks ago, 16 years. Thank you. And my positive impact story happened pretty recently, Monday, actually. I have 2 kids that are on the spectrum, and you know, I was starting to feel, just with like the new school year and everything, getting everybody's IEPs in place and having meetings and getting everyone's therapy, and I was starting to feel like a little burnt out. It can be a little exhausting, you know, just trying to stay on top of everything, and also try to have a career and also be like have my own thing going on. And but I was meeting with my youngest therapist, and we're just like going over everything. and she stopped and she just said, I just want to name that that you're doing a really good job, you know. And you know, you don't see, like when you're in it, you kind of don't see it because it's hard to zoom out, you know. But I really appreciated that that comment, because yeah, it just gave me like a boost of energy to like really take into the next day. And I really appreciated the comment. And yeah, and I've kind of been like running on that boost of energy for the last couple of days. So it's good to name something when you see it, you know.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. What I've taken from all these examples is I heard several times where a simple word of encouragement can have an incredible impact on a person's life. And over the last several years, I've tried to be more and more encouraging, you know, to anybody, because it's so easy to do. It's easy to give. It's free. It doesn't. So encouragement, but how often have you even recently been encouraged by someone? You gave a few stories, but it doesn't happen as often as at least I would think. So given that we're talking about positive impact, we are just going to go 180 degrees, and the topic for today's session is negativity. Negativity. So my first question for you to respond to is, what is negativity? When I said that term, how did you frame it? What is it? And this is where one of you like will scroll down like Khalees did and look at that little button. You know, if you scroll down, you can hit the little thing that says reactions and you can raise your hand. Oh, okay, you got it. Like, hey, Khalees, what is negativity?
So immediately my thoughts are what I perceive negativity to be versus what everybody else in the Zoom room perceives negativity to be can be completely different. First of all, well, I mean, there might be some, I think there might be some common themes, you know, but just because, and I think that goes to like our experiences or resiliency or things we've been through, because somebody can make a negative comment and I really think about it. I can fester on stuff where I'm like, oh my, why did they say that? And they might not think that's a negative comment. So right. I feel like negativity is very broad, but I guess if it activate some feelings in me, you know, maybe that's like it maybe I feel hurt or something, or I feel insecure, or I feel jealous, or all of those feelings arise maybe from a negative comment. So I guess if it activates something in me.
Okay, but you still didn't say what it is.
It can be anything, Phil.
Oh, okay, well, I want to know, what is negativity? Paula, what do you think negativity is?
I think negativity is a perspective, it's a choice, it's an emotion plus a thought, which equals the feeling, is what I think, because I think there's different kinds of negativity. There's self-negativity, and then there's negativity towards others or towards a situation. So I think there's lots of different kinds of negativity, but negativity itself, I think, is an emotion plus a thought.
Emotion plus a thought, but you also said a perspective and a choice. I like that. So, okay, well, what is negativity? This is a part where you unmute yourself, you know, when you're going to speak to the group. Or did you freeze? Michael? Thank you, Michael.
It wasn't unmuting. I'm like, unmute.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, when you said negativity, the first thing that popped into my head was, wah, wah,
Uh-huh.
and it's just that complete, I know that negativity, the word negative is in there, but it's that opposite of the stance that I want to take, or the thought track that I want to be on. It's that pessimistic and always hypercritical view. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be hypercritical. It can just be that critical view, or something that's said that's either on the pessimistic side or on the critical side. And the one thing about negativity, in my opinion, is it is contagious. It's so contagious, because I like to use this example when I'm talking to group, and it's like, if you have a good meal at a restaurant and you're walking out to your car, you might tell one person, hey, that restaurant was really great. If you have a bad meal, you'll tell everybody on the way to the car. You'll stop at the light, tell the guy next to you, and it's like all of a sudden we've become that Yelp society, where it's that negative thinking. And I struggle with that from time more often than I care to admit, to be honest with you, because that first thought that pops in my head for some reason can go into that that negative thought train. And I've had to train myself over the years to stop that as soon as it's possible, especially if it's about another person. Exercise I did was I would stop it and make myself come up with three types of three good things about that person, and then I just stopped thinking negative, because that was too hard. So but no, honestly, it's just one of those things for me that I have to watch, because it's definitely contagious. So
thank you. Neitha.
So it was interesting, like you said, emotion, thought, perspective, and choice, because I'd put attitude and characteristic. And I think the other things, a lack of hope, a presence of fear, and a lack of gratitude. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, thank you. Nate? You're up, Nate. Unmute yourself. Okay. I don't know. We lost Nate or something. We'll come back to you, Nate. How about you, Percy?
Negativity for me comes from the thought through the action of becoming a bad experience from within.
Okay. Henry, what is negativity?
Okay, I'm unmuted now. So, logging in a little bit late here. I just got the notice about 20 minutes before the meeting, and I was driving, but I'm here now. So, negativity. Negativity can be verbal or nonverbal. Okay. I think it involves a certain amount of intention, right? And it can also be misinterpreted, subject to misinterpretation. And I think another aspect of negativity can be a certain amount of selfishness. Okay. So, in other words, if I feel a little angry with someone, or I feel threatened, or I feel intimidated, or it may be a reflection more of how I feel. Okay. Then that is put upon the other person. Now, of course, negativity can also have a negative effect. It can have a positive effect. So, as has been said before, there are many dimensions to this idea of negativity. And it's a good discussion point. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Nate, you think you can unmute your phone? Nate? No, you're not unmuted yet. Nope. All right, let's go to Jeffrey.
All right, thank you, Phil. How are you?
Hi, Jeffrey.
So I'm doing good. So I placed in the chat that negativity is criticism and also distorted views. And what I meant by distorted views, from my perspective, I call people when they're inside the box versus outside the box thinking. So people who are inside the box, their views are distorted of everything. They can be negative. They don't see people for who they are. So when you're outside the box, it's more positive and you see people for who they are. Your views of life and everything else is not distorted. So I think of negativity as that way.
Got you. Emotions, and you can just unmute and say them are associated with negativity. Because negativity in and of itself is not an wheels that we've looked at. So what are some of the emotions associated with negativity?
Anger, sadness,
Anger,
fear.
sadness, fear.
Well, yeah, guilty. I mean, guilt,
Guilty.
shame, and like incompetence, jealousy, insecurity. Like, do you want me to just keep going? Like, because we can write a bucket list of these.
Well, Vance has a couple. I think he wants to. He had unmuted for a bit.
You guys covered most of them, but I think frustrating is a big one for me.
Anybody been negative lately? So anybody been negative today about anything?
Yes. I'm gonna be completely honest. I've been negative lately. I've been negative today.
Yeah. I've been having some GI issues. I got recently diagnosed as diverticulitis. And when it hurts, I tend not to be as positive. It can be some like physical pain drives me to the negative, just like, wow. So I just have recently really discovered what an impact that has on me as well. All right, you guys ready for the big question I want you to bat around? Talk to me about negativity and recovery coaching.
So I see a lot of negativity with one coach talking about another.
Oh,
if there's not, like, we're all supposed to be open-minded. We're all supposed to be accepting of all people, places, and things, right? And when I hear people say, oh, everything, people need to be less judgmental, but it's okay as long as you agree with them. And so I find some coaches that are critical of other coaches not because they're not doing their job well, but because of their personal opinions about different topics.
Oh, yeah, okay. Paula?
As I said, I'm in Spain. So and I moved here for recovery and went into residential treatment actually for 4 months. And prior to that, I'd done 2 separate months in treatment for alcohol. I've done the rounds of everything: Smart Recovery, Alcoholics Anonymous, all of it. And I love the principles of AA. And one of the people who supports me a lot in recovery is he is at, he's been at AA for 15 years, and he's sometimes he's maybe had a slip. And I have people who use AA groups, and one of the things I find negative, and one of the things that CCAR changed in my mentality, is when someone slips in recovery, it's back to day one. I find that negative. And although I said, you know, I love the principles of AA, what CCAR, the most important lesson I got is, if I slip today, I've still got all of my experience of recovery there. It doesn't disappear. It might be gone for 2 weeks. You know, it might be gone for 2 weeks because my head is a mess, but I'm not back to day one. And I find I personally don't count time, because when I was coming up to my first year, I started wanting to drink badly. And I recognised that the pressure of a year and people asking me, how long are you? How long are you? How long are you? It was making me want to drink. So I know a lot of people, you know, and I respect everyone has different, you know, a lot of people announce their time, and it's something really to be proud of. And I absolutely endorse that. But yeah, the negativity I see in recovery is the guy I'm talking about who goes to AA, he's been mostly sober for over a decade.
Thank you, Paula.
He's maybe drunk for 4 weeks, you know, he's not 2 days sober if he drinks today.
Right. Thank you, Paula. Appreciate that perspective very much. I once had a guy, and he turned to an AA meeting. He said, "I for 3 days." And all the people were like, "What the hell does that mean?" I loved it though. Percy.
No, when I deal with the peers and they begin to talk very negative about their behavior, I begin to sit back and think about my negativity, how I began this process of trying to recover, but with the boost of telling them they can, of showing them the sign of hope, begins to turn that negativity around, because I really want to expound on their strengths.
Okay.
And when I hit their strengths, that's when the tides turn.
Thank you, Percy. Yeah, cool. Mike.
Hey, look at that. The unmute worked. I'm going to take it from 2 different perspectives. One, when I'm being negative, or I have that negative, or as we were talking about the attitude of no gratitude, I know it's because I'm not taking good enough care of myself. Like I'm lacking in that self-care part. I'm one of those people that takes care of everybody, and then I take care of myself last. So it's like it's tough to give it away when you don't have it, you know. So it's like, for me, I need to it starts there. It starts with taking better care of myself. Go for a walk, do something physical, go for a workout, take a day off, do something, you know, to get myself out of that mindset. But when I'm working with recovery that's negative or down, I try to point out some of the positive, some of the wins that they've had. You know, I can think, for one example, this popped into my head. I had an individual who had slipped, and he had a few months sober at that point, and then he slipped and was really, really down on himself. And I said, "Hey, listen, let me ask you a question. How many times have you drank in the last year?" And he's like, 3 or 4. And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's amazing. You used to drink a handle of vodka every single day." And he's like, "Oh, I never really thought of it that way." You know? So it's like, that was one of the things that I found that was like really helpful for working with this individual, to kind of take him out of that negative thinking and turn it into positive. Hey, you know what? I can do this. So.
Thanks, Mike. Neetha?
So I think I find myself in negativity about myself when I am not finding joy in things I'm doing, or when I allow myself to find moments of self-doubt. And then the other bit is the negative perception of recovery coach professionals that I am feeling. In my world, I got contacted by a national media outlet last week through a PR agent, and they said they wanted to speak to an expert in recovery for Recovery Month. And they said, oh, you just have lived experience. We want to speak to an addiction professional or a therapist. And I just went, oh. So yeah, trying to change that position, because in England, the view is recovery coaches are just people who are peers or lived experience. And we do not have any professional or expertise.
Yeah, that's why, well, that's why I resist the term peer, because that's where the
Yep.
default when people use that term is that's all they have. They don't have the other. That's why I like recovery coach. Neetha, what did you do when they said that?
I just said, well, I'm really sorry you have that opinion. What can I do to change that? And their response was, we need some case studies, some stats. Give us the proof that you are an expert. So I said, give me a week.
Oh, really? I would
So
have
I'm not
said,
sure what I'm going to do in that week, but I've got 6 days left.
well, I always go a little more personal. Sorry, this is a little rabbit trail, but I would say if you had a relative, would you rather want them to talk to somebody who's been there, has been trained in the field, and knows exactly what they're going through to help lift them out of this hole, or somebody who's just learned it from books?
Thank
So,
you.
those are just and I think, well, and that's just years of experience that when talking to family members, like in the emergency department, wow, you guys, you've been there, you know how to get out of this thing. So anyway, rabbit trail, back to the trail, main trail. Vance, what does negativity have to do with recovery coaching?
So I mentioned frustration a few minutes ago about
Yeah.
negativity. I suffered a really pretty catastrophic shoulder injury 3 weeks ago, so I've been in constant pain. So that's affecting my overall outlook every day. Not getting the rest. So everything, the first week, everything was crappy.
Yeah.
And I know that's not the reality, but I have to be aware of where I'm at before I'm going to go meet with one of the people I'm coaching. And if I'm not in the right mindset, I have to be honest with them and ask for help from some of my colleagues. But I also have a lot of what other people have shared. I've heard it from people in the field that are clinicians, psychiatrists, like, they're like, what's your degree? What's your license in? And I actually am a clinician, but I don't really want to get into that. I prefer the recovery coaching over the clinical work. And what you just said, Phil, really makes a lot of sense. We've all been there, gone through it. There's some similarities in our stories, and then each one of us is unique.
Yeah.
But it took other people that had been through it to help me. And I didn't care what piece of paper they had. It's just my goal for my recovery was to be comfortable in my own skin, and I was willing to do whatever I could to do that, to achieve that. And I asked the recoverees what they want, and we work on that. And they do early on, they are negative on themselves. And I remember I used to beat myself up regularly, like throughout the day. My internal voice was really not very good.
Got it.
And so that's something I got to work on every day, especially now when I'm in pain.
Yeah, and when I was talking about with a reporter calling Neetha, that's the attitude that I was challenging there, because I do believe that there are many very skilled, loving, caring, nurturing clinicians that have learned how to deal with people really well. But that doesn't necessarily make them the only experts in the field, which is what I was pushing back with that reporter. So, Henry, what do you think?
Okay, some really good feedback there. I tell you, when I think of the negativity in coaching experience, okay, in the coaching experience, I just try to remember that at the very most fundamental level, we're dealing with suffering. It's about suffering. And when you're working with people who are suffering, you can expect negativity. It's going to come. Because I can remember when I was at the the pits. I mean, you wouldn't even wanted to talk to me. In fact, if I have someone that I'm coaching or working with, and they come to me every time I talk to them, they're happy and joyful and cheery, and I tend to think there's a red flag here. But because, I mean, I do. I think, uh-oh, we got a relapse coming or something's going on here. And so it's about the suffering. And I just try to remind myself that when people suffer, there's going to be negativity. They're going to be bitching. They're going to have an attitude like they want to give up, that there's no hope, that this is useless. There's just such a hopelessness. And that's what some of that's going to be about. And that can be very useful in the experience, in the coaching experience, because you can work with that. You can work with that.
Yeah.
Because it's something they're putting on the table that, hey, man, I'm hurting right now. I might not know how to express it, but I'm hurting. That's all.
Thank you. Nate, are you giving it a go again? Can you unmute your phone? Your hand's up.
I'm in there.
There you go. All right.
I needed Michael here to help me.
Of course you do. There you go.
I'm old, man. I'm old.
I know. It's okay.
So for me, the negativity, what fires me up is the energy that when a person is living or walking in that negativity, it just fires. I feel it. And so what I have to do is I like the notion that you guys have of managing my own stuff, because it taps into me. It actually have me responding to their negativity. And so being a Black man in America, not from a pity perspective, but I can't turn CNN on without somebody saying something about, Black people, people of color. And so, I see it day in and day out throughout, the media and social media. And so learning how to live in this country without feeling like feeding into the negativity is a gift for me. I'm grateful that I don't succumb to the negativity, but I realize it when I recognize it, I use it as a strength to propel me forward. And because I know you don't want to see me succeed, but I'm gonna succeed despite what your expectation is. And so it's a motivator for me. And I've seen, I'm damn near 70, and I've dealt with it for a lot of years in a lot of different places. And so, I'm just grateful. Negativity, I feel it when I walk in the room. I might be the only Black person in there, and I feel that energy coming my way. So, yeah.
Thank you, Nate.
That's
Paula.
I'm sorry, I wouldn't have been able to relax after the call. I started to get stressed that I had insulted somebody or insulted someone without knowing. When I was talking about, I don't find it when someone's been sober for 10 years and they slip, and then they're back to day one. I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't upset anyone, because I wasn't taken away from anyone who says, I'm 7 years sober, 8 years sober. I think that's amazing. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't insult anybody.
You expressed yourself beautifully. No, there was no negativity associated with what you were expressing, at least from my part.
Getting stressed.
Great. Dominic.
Good morning, Phil.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Well enough.
Well enough. So I just wanted to give my little take. I was just going to listen today, but this is actually a great topic. So I feel like it's negativity comes in. It's a mindset and perspective, right? But it comes in when I'm not adhering to the science, right? Like if I'm not discovering and managing, then I'm lacking something, which creates that negativity, right? Like, I feel like it's just the absence of positivity. Like, darkness is the absence of light, right? Like, there is no such thing as cold, it's the absence of heat. So if I don't have, if I'm not staying focused on positivity, which, comes from gratitude, and different things, right? Different characteristics. So for me, it's in order to keep the positive mindset, I focus on those things that are good and choose not to focus on all the bad, but what is the solution? So I think a lot of times the solution is how I stay as a coach, how I stay in the mindset of positivity is by focusing on the solution, not the problem, right? Saying, like we say, keep recovery first, focus on recovery, promote recovery. Don't focus on the stigma or the stuff that's going wrong. Let's focus on the stuff that's going right. Just like when you spoke about empowerment this morning, like that really like kind of hit home in my mind. So I just wanted to share that. Thanks, Phil.
About empowerment. I did?
Yeah, you mentioned empowerment this morning when we first started.
Okay.
I'm actively listening. You did.
I'm actively forgetting. Khalees.
I was just trying to like really think about it. And I guess from a coaching perspective, whenever I hear like coaches in our community and they are upset or there's some negativity there, it's normally that they went to that coaching session with an agenda. They were not like they were like they had these expectations, or they're like, oh, this is what we're going to do. And then it doesn't work out like that, because we know that things don't always work out. And so that's normally what it is I was trying to think about the root of it, and it's people come with an agenda. They're attached to the outcome.
I like that. Let's break this down into two. The first question is going to be about negativity in the recovery, and then it's going to be negativity within the recovery coach. And I heard topics people discuss. How does a recovery coach deal with negativity within a recovery, someone they're working with? How do you deal with it? Many of you are coaching. Then
solution focused, like Dom said, I always, if it's like negative Nancy, I mean, I guess it depends on like certain situations where I'm going to have empathy and compassion, but I also do try to like highlight the positives, like look what you just accomplished, that, and celebrate those successes with them. Because if we can bring awareness to that, it's like the role of a recovery coach is future focus.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, definitely staying focused on the solution and trying to stay present as well too, because a lot of negativity I find for the people that I work with is either based on something that happened in the past or something that they're worried about coming down the road. That self-sabotaging starts to happen when they see something that's a stressful thing. So we kind of try to walk through that and try to focus on the positive and on the goal for it as to why we're doing this. I like to celebrate wins. That's one of my favorite things to do, and if there's a win that they've had, in the past, I try to, to focus on that and bring their attention off of that negative thinking. Gratitude lists work too. So.
Got you.
Phil, this is Percy, Phil.
Yeah.
I really like to rely on my lived experience to help me get through or help me get started with dealing with this negativity piece when I'm dealing with a recovery, because most of the things that I have succeeded, accomplished, and now are doing are some of the things that I really need this person or this individual to really get a feel for, to see that it wasn't easy for me, and it won't be easy for you.
So, is it the role of a recovery coach to convert or dispel negative attitude?
Say that one more time, Phil. Your mic cut off.
I know. It said my internet was unstable. Is it the role of a recovery's negative attitude to move it from negative to positive? Is that the role of a recovery coach? Paula?
What I try and do when there is negativity is I try and raise awareness towards it with questions, and ask about what it depends on the situation, and also if it's, you know, soon after a sleep, it can be difficult, but to raise awareness to it and then to try and uncover where the root of it may be. It could be that someone is seeing a negative in something because of a pattern from the past. So I try and use questions and ask about evidence, you know, so what happened the last time you thought this? It can be someone saying, when I go to the supermarket, everybody looks at me because I'm ugly, is a live example. And, you know, where was the evidence last time you went to the supermarket? Who looked at you?
Mm-hmm.
So I try and use some questions to raise the awareness and challenge the reality of the words.
Good, thank you. Percy?
I like to instill hope.
Okay.
For me, I just like to instill hope. And I will give you a brief story. One day, I went on a cruise with the wife and a person that had a daughter that was in recovery, and we was on a cruise. And we all three showed up at the dining room table at the same time. And when we showed up, everybody at the table, they had red wine at one end and white wine at the other end, and they held their bottles up as if to say, which one? Looked at my wife, I looked at the other person, and I said, I'm sorry. And I turned my cup over and put it on the table. And, you know, somebody had to ask, what's that about? And I said, it's about recovery. This is about recovery. If I allow you to pour that drink into this glass, this boat will be rocking, and I will rock it for you. So let's not go there. And so the other individual with the lady who had a daughter in recovery, she was questioned about bringing her daughter on the cruise, and she only had like 6-7 months. I said, no, you have to give her hope. Give her things like this here, and it will give her hope that she can handle it. And it's about the decision making at that time. And before I know it, the whole table give me a standing ovation because I was able to say no.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
There we go. You know, as far as when you're dealing with somebody with negativity, and I think of the definition of coach from Recovery Coach Academy. The original definition was a conveyance, you know, and I think that it's part of what we do, but we're not always going to be 100% successful at it. You know, I think if we stay honest with the person and tell them the truth, what they choose to do with that is completely up to them. Now, that said, you know, you're going to hopefully find out what's really going on there by asking good questions, listening to the answers, you know. If there's resistance to any of your suggestions or anything that you're trying to point out, roll with it. And at the end of the day, it's okay to agree to disagree. If you know, there are just some days where you're not going to make it's going to stay where it's at, you know, and that's okay too, you know.
Here's an interesting question. If you had 10 people that were on the scale, they were 10s as far as positivity, and you put them in the same room with 10 people who are off the scale, they were 10 negatives. Anybody know any of those people that were that strong negative and that strong positive? Who would win? What force would win out, the positive force or the negative force? Khalees.
The positive ones. It is attractive. It is contagious. It is like,
Okay.
I mean, like, it's easy for us to sink down, but I'm like, so really, whenever you ask that question about, is it our role? If I'm just putting myself in a perspective here. If I'm going to see a coach and I'm negative and I keep leaving there feeling negative, why am I going to see that coach? Because I'm going to see the coach because I feel negative. So I'm hoping that they're going to help me feel positive. So that's just like me personally. That's what I'm thinking in my head. If I'm going to see a coach, that's what I'm hoping.
Well, there's other ways to say that you can not always true. A person could go in feeling positive, like I'm positive and I feel really good about eating McDonald's 22 times, but which points out that maybe that's not the best thing for you, Phil, because you've gained 127 pounds. And then I leave feeling negative about my McDonald's habit, and I different about it. I don't know. I just maybe an extreme example. Michael.
I guarantee you that I could go in a room, I've done it before plenty of times, where there's negativity and I get the positive out of it. Because that's what I look for, you know. I see, and it's funny because I think I have that gift of seeing black clouds over people, right? And I like to swap that cloud off, you know, and I try to find ways of doing it, right?
For their head. Was that Pigpen in
Well,
Charlie
yeah,
Brown?
yeah.
They always had a black cloud over.
You know, I grew up with individuals like that had this black cloud over them, and they were always looking for somebody to push that cloud on. And
All right, so you're in the same camp with Khalees that the positives would win.
They win.
No. Dude. Michael.
I have to be in the camp that the positives win, because if I don't take that attitude, then what am I doing? You know, and I agree with Michael too. I feel like a weatherman sometimes with those dark clouds, you know, and we have groups in here a lot of times, and there will be, without fail, somebody in the group that's definitely got that negative perspective on things. And I think by the end of the group, with, you know, the group working together and me trying to kind of keep it on the right track, they end positive, you know. For me, I like to interject a lot of humor, you know, try to keep things as light as possible. And that tends to work for me and you know, and keeping that positive attitude. But if I don't have that attitude that the positive is going to win, I'm not going to have a very good day. That's for sure.
Okay. Nate, did you want to try to say something? Thumbs up if you do. Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. So, you know, I haven't had an opportunity to really coach anyone individually in a little while. However, when coaching, I've always said to the recoveree that they go to a meeting, say a 12-step meeting, and it's 25 people in the meeting, and 20 of them are very positive, uplifting, and saying something that's inspiring. And then 5 of them are very negative, none of this matters, and all of that. Which one are you most likely to leave with? And it's always that negative energy somehow infuses in your brain. My theme of helping that person empower themselves is to know that they're vulnerable to that negative energy, and to be aware of it so that they can do the things essential so they don't fall in the trap of negativity, because negativity can drain you. I mean, it's great to, like, you guys are all you know, got in long-term recovery, and you know, you ain't living in a shelter or in some under some tree, and with all these other negative people. So it's important, I think, as a coach, to coach that person up on those sort of issues.
Thank you, Nate. Henry.
Yeah, hi everybody. At least in my mind, when it comes to the question of whether positivity is going to win out over negativity,
Yeah.
I feel that yes, sometimes it does, and sometimes it does not. It's a and if I have that expectation, okay, I think I'm going to have a lot of disappointment. So I think you do the best you can, all right, and that you're planting seeds, and sometimes those seeds are not gonna you're not gonna get the harvest right away. And if I gotta be thinking that I have to have a win in the win column, then I'm taking some ownership of the recovery. And I think that's probably not a good thing, at least for me. Okay. I do the best I can. I, use whatever experience I have and whatever tools I have to help that person. Okay. And the heavy lifting is really their heavy lifting, not my heavy lifting. I use the tools I have and do the best I can. And hopefully the seeds were good, was in some good earth, and and they did well with it. And maybe say a prayer or two or three.
Yeah, thank you. I think a lot about, I love, Nate, that you said that a lot of times people have said that it a lot of energy being negative. I think being positive takes more energy for the individual. In order to maintain a positive attitude, you have to really fire yourself up. You have to be this, because Nate used the term that negative drains, right? I don't know why my internet keeps saying it's unstable, but the negativity drains. So I would, at this point, at least the way I'm thinking, that if you had those 10 and 10, that the negativity would win. I'm in the other camp. Drain all the energy and life out of the positive people. But that's where I am right now. Physical pain, who knows? However, I do know that running a 70 employees, and every day, every week, we focus on organizational culture and leadership. Anybody work in a top culture before? Raise your hand if you have, just so I can see. Never worked in a negative culture.
Can you repeat that? You blipped out.
Has negative culture before? A toxic work environment, right? Anybody ever had the blessed work environment? Positive.
Positive?
Yes, a positive work environment. What is up with my internet? I'm getting irritated. I'm getting negative about my internet.
How can I help you with your internet today?
Yeah. Usually this one is the most stable one ever, but we have maintained a positive work environment for several years now. Can develop a negative attitude, or what they thought they should get a job, they were think whatever, something goes wrong in their personal life, they bring it into the office. That negative energy has a way of permeating. It's almost like sometimes like a cancer cell, right? That it starts to grow, infect other cancer cells in negative energy. I'm not sure. So don't underestimate the power of a negative person on your own personal relationship. Michael.
It's funny that you say that. I worked in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away before I got into this field. I
Well,
Froze.
he's froze. What
that
is
I was
Oh.
able to quit smoking. So,
well,
because-
we missed it all because you froze.
oh, I did. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Now
So-
my internet connection is unstable.
Yeah.
You said that. We had an individual that I worked with that was just, you know, the absolute Debbie Downer, you know, everything was, you know, sad. And he used to take a cigarette break the same time that I did, you know, like all the time. And he would just sit down there. And honestly, he was one of the top 5 reasons why I quit smoking, because I just got so tired of hanging around
Yeah.
there with him. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, so in all, you know, in all honesty, that negative person helped me quit smoking, because I was just like, I just can't listen to another one of these
Right.
diatribes. So
Any other thoughts about that? Henry.
Yeah, I have just one thought on that. The negativity thing, or living in or working in a toxic environment, it's just so powerful. It's a powerful thing. Even in the news cycles, okay, there's a saying that if it bleeds, it leads, or if it burns, it earns.
All right.
You know, and yeah, and people will naturally gravitate towards that negativity. So the positivity thing, I mean, I'm with you. I try to be positive, you know, as much as I possibly can. All right. And to live that way, and to coach that way. So yeah, the negativity thing, I've worked in toxic environments, and it's like suffocation. Okay. You just feel like you're snuffed out.
Yeah.
And eventually you leave because you can't perform in that environment. You really can't.
I agree.
Yeah.
Khalees.
Well, so just there's a couple things going on in my head. So
I could see.
So one is like, whenever I think about negativity in my experiences, for example, the workplace, like there's 2 things that can happen. I can feel stuck. I can feel pushed down, like suffocating, like Mike just said before, and like fear, all of that stuff. But then on the other hand, it like opens my heart up to see that there's change, like the light comes through, and I become a huge advocate for trying to make change, or how do I create spaces where people don't have to be in a culture like that. So it's like negativity can be this thing that like cages our hearts, and it's like darkness and sad and dreary. Or I feel like because of negative experiences, it can light the fire in us that we like become free and be like, how can we make change? I don't know if this makes sense, what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense?
Okay. No, I hear you.
Like you can also use that experience to be the light, like to want to make change, or
Well, then you're being positive.
Exactly. So I'm not letting that negative situation control me. I'm trying to change the system that created the negative situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When you have a negative attitude in given today or anytime, what are some techniques you use, or does anybody like to sit in their negativity for a while? You know, it's soft, smelly, like a baby in its diaper, you know, you like to sit in it for a while.
I think you have to get out of it right away, because the longer you sit in it, the worse it gets and the more negative you get. And it's so mentally and emotionally draining to be that negative. So getting out of it as quickly as possible for me.
Right. And so how do we get out of it is really like a question too.
So for me, it's getting in prayer, getting in the Word of God, remembering promises that God's made for me, and to just remember that it's only temporary. Whatever the problem is, it's only temporary.
Gotcha. Good suggestions. Neetha.
So I gave Khalees a little project today because she loves creativity. So when I get really negative or down, I've realized I start making a list in my little journal of all the people that believe in me. and that sort of counteracts the negativity. So I said to her, can she make me a nice big bulletin board for the wall and put everybody's little heads on there so that I can just look at it? But I have a friend and he's a hope coach and he works for a Christian organization. And I've just really appreciated that on the days when it's been tough, you know, he'll just message me and I'll message him back. And he just kind of helps reframe that and put it in a form of grateful for the challenges, grateful I can see the negativity and understand it, and then let me walk away from it. So yeah, sometimes it's just a quick Facebook message or a journal writing, and then I just have to reset myself. And it's like sometimes like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, reset, be positive, Nita, you know? And yeah, so lots of different things.
Thank you. Mike, where'd you go?
Am I still here?
Now you are.
I don't know. The internet's kind of going in and out here all of a sudden. You know, I have a one of the people that's in my recovery network, you know, my little support, you know, group that I have, my little tribe, always says, beware the drowning man, you know, and it's like I think about that all the time because, you know, you swim out to help the drowning man and he pulls you down with him. And I definitely try to avoid that. And sometimes it's easy to spot. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're sitting at your desk and all of a sudden you're in a negative mood and you realize, you know, everything's bad or whatever. And you realize, oh man, you know, that really did affect me. And for me, I got to get up and do something else. I got to get up and do something else. I got to walk away. I saw Dominic put in here, move a muscle, change of thought. I'm like 100%, you know, on that one. And, but yeah, it's funny how easy it is when I'm not on the top of my game to get pulled right on into that. So.
Gotcha. Khalees.
I do some of the stuff that other people have mentioned as well. I also like to really physically shield myself from bad juju, you know, just like, nope, not today. And I like to, I think I always say it's bad juju. And also I've started to really do this thing where I can turn that into like what's actually beneath the surface. So like I was getting frustrated early this week and I'm like, actually, you know what, I can have empathy and compassion and realize that this person is still very sick and they are not doing that inner work on themselves. And I can go be, and like for me, that helps me a lot to be able to look at that as like, oh, they're not, it's a lack of education or that's a lack of awareness. And then I'm like, they're human, you know, if it's like people that we're dealing with and stuff like that. And for me to be able to switch that, it makes me feel like I'm not a bad person either.
Great. Thank you. Dominic.
So it actually reminds me of why everybody's talking. It reminds me of that story. And I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I'm going to be very brief. So that story of, remember the story of the man who like blamed God all day long for everything that happened? He was like inconvenienced all day. Like he lost his keys. He got stuck in traffic. Like all these things happened all day long. He got angry all day long and he started to get more negative and more negative, more negative. And at the end of it, he actually goes to, at the end of it, he's thinking, and like God actually talked to him and was like, yeah, so at this point, you didn't find your keys because you would have died in the car accident. That's the reason you were stuck in traffic. Again, it goes so on and so forth. But it reminds me of the fact that like we can view things, right? I really think negativity is mindset. We can view it like that, or we can look at those as just obstacles to get through. Like, I don't know. For me, I always like to look, when I start feeling negative, I'm like, what's the solution, right? So, or maybe this happened because something worse could happen. So then I'm grateful. Sometimes I'm grateful for the storm. I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes I'm just like, okay, I get it. You know, that's just me. I don't know. But it reminds me of that story.
Thank you. I've also found for me, and I just on the way into work today, was to put on I get the internet connection is unstable. So one of the music, right? So that's all good with my mindset. Henry, how do you get yourself out of these negative places? Or do you just like to sit in it for a while?
No, I don't sit in it, but You know, I learned a long time ago. I mean, I'm 74 now, so
Yeah.
so I just look at it like this. Listen, if I can do something about it, then there's no need to worry. Now, and if I can't do anything about it, then there's no use to worry. So that's like my attitude about it. And so I just don't let the worry, because I've learned over a long time that whatever I choose to attach myself to attaches to me with equal and opposite force. So I just recognize that. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I also think for me that if anybody like get negative when they have to do something they don't want to do. So for me, that becomes like selfish in a way, that I don't want to do that. Why do I have to do that? Blah, 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 blah. Is try to practice mindfulness and slow down and just stay in the moment. So I don't want to write this report or, respond to this email. It's going to take me, an hour. One thing because a person had a negative attitude or whatever. But if I say, okay, here's the time to do this, sit down and just do it and go through it, then it becomes a lot simpler to break it down into smaller parts, and just stay in the moment. If we're in the moment, it's hard to be negative, for me anyway. And then if it comes to recovery coaching, I think actually times when I've been negative, like, I don't want to coach this person now. I don't feel like doing this. Or even when I was coaching kids, running all over the place, I don't want to go to practice and coach these kids today. But when I show up and and to me, negativity is often internal. I'm responding to the internal. If I get out of myself, that becomes positive. So if I'm starting to really engage with a person, be curious about it, my negativity lifts oftentimes. Or if I'm coaching the kids through their drills or they're refereeing their scrimmage game or whatever, I got out of my negativity, And a lot of my negativity is in response to life's events. Like, big things like the loss of my parents, right? I could easily respond negatively to that. I could respond positively, I think, too. And we kind of skirted over this, and I'd love to hear what some of you think. Is negativity a choice? Is it really a choice? And if it's a choice, why do we often choose it? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Khaleesi, you have some thoughts?
So it's easy, like really, really easy to go negative all of a sudden. And I'll just, I work with my mom's husband occasionally. And I remember like a year ago, like I'd be like, today I'm not going to get mad about anything whenever I meet with him. And I'm just going to let everything bounce off my shoulder. And like, that's a real conscious effort to not get wound up by somebody, to not get any negativity. And I had to put the work in to really like make an effort with that, because it's so easy for me to get frustrated and angry at everything.
Paula.
It's such a fine line, because people say stress is a choice. Oh, you're anxious. Why are you anxious? Arguably, anything can be a choice, but negativity, it's difficult. Like if I go to the gym every day and the toilet's blocked and I complain about the toilet being blocked, it's a reality, the toilet is blocked, so I'm complaining about something. So is that negativity? So it's a difficult one, because I think that there's negativity towards something which is a reality, and there's negativity when it's a perspective. It can be seeing the dirt on the wall instead of seeing the part of the wall that's clean, looking for negatives. So it's a difficult one.
I guess when it comes to the clogged toilet, it's how you explain. You know,
Yeah.
what your attitude is when you go to the desk and say, you could say, your effing toilet is freaking clogged again. Damn it.
Money.
Hey, there, you got a problem in the bathroom. You might want to check it out. I don't know. Percy.
No, it's French.
You're up, Percy. Go ahead. Oh, no, you just muted yourself.
No,
There you go.
I take that negative and use it for a positive. For instance, my back was hurting so much. I was on the bus, my back was hurting. And I'm sitting there on the bus and I'm having this pity party, you know, and this guy gets on the bus in a wheelchair. He has no legs, no arms. He has his earphones on and he's sitting across from me. I mean, he was just jamming with his music. He was in this zone all by himself. And I observed him for at least about a half an hour. And before I got off, I went over to say something to him and I said, man, I want to let you know that you have been a positive experience for me this morning, considering and observing you over here enjoying life. And I'm sitting over there being angry and being, you know, with a negative attitude. And from that point on, I look at it differently now. I look outward, I outward look of something to help me get out of that funk for me. And that guy really, really did that for me that particular day.
Mm-hmm. Well, reminds me too, a lot of times I encounter negativity when you're traveling, especially lately in the United States with flights and everything. And I mean, when you like, I heard a comedian say, Lewis seat in the sky, and we're complaining about having a seat in the sky, traveling another. So I was thinking about it that way, that what a privilege and an exciting adventure just to fly in a plane. Oh my gosh. So thank you for that, Percy. Just, you know, I hope we gave you something to think about as far as negativity goes and positivity. God bless me and God bless you and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. See you next month.